See if this seems familiar. You're speaking. You get up on stage. Got some important things to say. You start talking. You go through your speech. And as you go through your speech, you notice that nobody's really paying attention. You get a little nervous. Start thinking, whoa, okay, I better do something. But all you got is your speech. So you just keep on doing your speech, and you keep on going. And you notice people are getting less and less interested. And then you're panicking, you're freaking out. You're like, this is the only speech I have. I got nothing else. What am I going to do? It's all up to me. I got to save the whole thing. And as you're talking, you notice the whole audience attention level is going down like this. And maybe your audience attention level goes all the way down, hits the floor, and just keeps on going. And you're giving a subterranean speech. You ever had something like that happen? Oh, maybe not that bad. But at some point you lost the audience attention. You didn't know what to do, and things just kind of went downhill from there. Well, that happens when you have the attitude of speaker of say, I speak, you shut up and listen, and that's that. Well, today's audience aren't simply going to shut up and listen. Somehow you have to figure out some sort of way to get them involved. And if you don't do that, your speech is going to go like that, like the Titanic of speeches. And you don't want that to happen. Because when that speech starts going down, it's just like the Titanic. It ain't coming back up. It's just going to keep on going and going. You watch it in slow motion. It just falls slower and slower and slower to its doom. You don't want to go there. So the challenge is you've got to figure out some way to involve the audience. Now, if you're giving a workshop, it's pretty straightforward. You got a workshop, great, you're going to involve the audience. But even if you aren't giving a workshop, if you have little breakaway sessions or something you do to involve the audience, to get the audience really seriously involved with your speech. Now, keynoters, of course, don't worry as much about that, but they still want to try to involve the audience in different ways. But if you're giving a workshop or you're giving some sort of a follow-up session, you definitely have to be doing this, involving your audience. In fact, most of your speech may just be involving your audience. Now, there are different ways to involve the audience. There's a kind of the basic way, and then there's more difficult, challenging ways. But as you get deeper into the more challenging ways and really start pushing that audience involvement, you may be amazed at what levels you can rise to in audience involvement when you just give the audience a chance. Get out of the way, give the audience a chance. Remember, it's all about your audience. It's not about you as a speaker. It's all about your audience. So involving the audience is absolutely important. And today you're going to find about 4 different ways to involve your audience. Some of them are kind of basic, but important. Others are more advanced. The last one is very advanced, very challenging, but potentially very rewarding. If you do manage to get to that last stage and really get that one done, that's pretty impressive. And it's going to wow anybody in the audience, and it's going to stun anybody who happens to be the booker of presentations. They'll say, whoa, that guy, that gal got it going on. Got to get them back. They're just incredibly good. Takes a little effort, but it's worth it. The first thing to do to involve the audience, and the simplest thing to do, is something that's quite often misunderstood by speakers. That's what I referred to at the very beginning, this sort of idea of, okay, I talk and you shut up and listen. And although this first way of involving the audience sounds like it's like that, it's really not. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. And when you open yourself up to doing things a little bit differently, to letting go of control up here as a speaker, things become possible. And this first way can really help you let go of that control, let go of that need to have everything be exactly the way you want it to be, and be a little more open to your audience and your audience's situation. It's not so challenging it's going to freak you out at the beginning, but it does have its own challenges in doing it right. Now, first way of involving the audience is to teach. To teach. Now, as I mentioned, it's not about, hey, I teach and you shut up. Hey, me teacher, you student. That worked okay in elementary school and high school, maybe even in college. By the time you get into adult people, you're speaking to adults, the I talk and you shut up and listen approach, the teacher-student model, just isn't going to work. So teaching isn't about, I'm teaching you. Instead, teaching is about getting the audience to teach each other. Teach each other. If you can get your audience's members to teach somebody that they just heard about, then they will learn it very well. Maybe you've heard that. If you really want to understand something, you have to teach it to somebody else. Well, that's true. You really want to get an understanding of it, you teach it to somebody else. So if you want your audience to get an understanding of what's going on, get them somehow to teach that to another person. Now, it takes a little bit of thought, a little bit of creativity to come up with these kind of audience self-teaching exercises. You're going to have some sort of a breakout session or some sort of session where the audiences get a chance to huddle and do some things. It's possible that sort of thing in a keynote is mentioned more likely in a breakout session of some type. But if you can get your audience to teach each other, then one, it's interactive. The audience is very involved. And two, the audience has a real interest in making sure the other person gets it and making sure they get it. And that puts a little bit of pressure on your audience. They're like, okay, now you got to teach them what we talked about. And make sure that that's clear. That can be really great. It can also indicate problems in communication. So if you've got a situation where you're talking about problems in communication, you say, okay, we'll just role play a little bit. Okay, you do this, and you'll be the boss, and you'll be the employee, and here's the situation, and okay, here's your background. Here's your background. Now, your boss, you're going to teach the employee what to do. And employee, just act naturally. With all the situations, all the things going on in your mind, act naturally and just kind of go along with it. And just see, are you getting it? Are you confused? What's happening? Do you understand what the boss is saying? And that can really help people a lot in getting to teach each other, getting an idea of it's not just me telling you what to do, it's also making sure that you understand what I'm saying. And teaching as opposed to telling is a bit more of a challenge. Just a little bit more of a challenge to teach as opposed to tell. Now, teaching is an approach. It's not the most interesting approach. There's another thing you can do to involve the audience. It can make things much more interesting. Teaching is one approach. There's another way you can involve the audience that can really get deep into where the audience is and into what the audience is feeling and what's going on with the audience. And actually get the audience deeper in understanding what's going on in the situations and the problems around them. One of the challenges sometimes in an audience is they come at, well, from what they know, from where they are. And you as a speaker, your job is to take them from where they are and to transform them to a new way of looking at things, a new awareness. Ideally, after your speech, the audience will start out here, they'll be transformed by your speech, and suddenly they'll start seeing things in a different way, approaching things in a different way because of your speech. And to go beyond teaching and really get into that, you want to have something that's really going to stir up emotions, something that's going to dig deep, something that's going to get into some real heavy stuff, because that's where the transformation can really occur. And the way to have that occur is to use a story. Story. Well, teaching encourages kind of top-down. It's very difficult to have top-down. When you're teaching somebody, I talk, you shut up and listen. It's difficult to have it be interactive. Once you get into a story, a person's story, it's just all them. And they're telling this story about how they feel about their own situations. Or they're understanding a story about somebody else's situation and how they feel and what's going on with them. Stories are deep. Stories have substance. Stories resonate with the audience. Examples tell, stories sell. Stories really get the audience thinking about things. So if you can find a way to either weave some sort of story that the audience will somehow interact with, that's great, but you need to get the audience to tell their own personal story. Maybe get a time when the audience can kind of share their own story. What brought them here? What they're kind of trying to look at? What they're doing? What the challenges they face are? What are the really difficult things they've had? What are some of the triumphs that they've had? Get your audience to share their story with each other. Or get your audience to come on, one person get up on stage and share the story with the audience. And that can be very powerful. Because once you get a story from the audience, of the audience, by the audience, that's powerful stuff. And the audience thinks, hey, I know that story. I've experienced that story. That's my fellow worker up there, not just some jerk paid to come up and blah, blah, blah. This is my fellow worker up there telling a story. I get that. I understand that. Stories are incredibly powerful. Now, the challenge, of course, is how do you get people to come up and really share things. And, of course, keeping it safe for the public, safe for work, and making sure people don't feel uncomfortable or pressured. That's a kind of balancing act. So there is a risk, certainly, in storytelling. But get people up there to tell their story, really share their story, either on stage or with each other, with somebody kind of reporting back. Here's kind of the stories we're talking about, some of the situations. That can be a really great way to kind of open up and say, well, here's kind of where the audience is. Here's what's going on with the audience. Or, if you're talking about a story, you can have a story of, here's kind of where your customers are and where they live and what's going on. You can tell kind of a story about that and get the audience involved in that story. Have you ever been online and bought something and show how the audience, like the same experience you have, the frustrations you have, are the same frustrations your customer is having. You get that story coming from the audience. So it's not you on stage telling the story. This audience somehow comes to the audience. The audience maybe fills in part of the story. Stories can be very powerful. Stories will be powerful. There is another thing, it's a little risky, but can even be more fun. Teaching is a great way to get the audience to teach each other. It can be a little challenging. Stories get the audience to open up in a whole new way. There's something else you can do. Now, it isn't as structured as a story, and it has to be carefully managed as a speaker. It can be just a lot of fun because a couple of things deep in it. One is this story. Tell me a story. It's a common thing. People have heard it, they've requested it in stories for years, and that's certainly true. There's something more you can do that gets at a really even more primal, even more basal. Is that a word? Basal? It's now a word. Basal type of need than story. And that is if you can get people to play. That's right, I said play. Like they were kids. Like they were kids, you get people to play. And then they start thinking, wow, this is fun, this is great. I mean, remember you were a kid? Remember you didn't care about anything, you just ran around? I mean, hopefully that's what you happened. You're a kid. You got to run around free, you got to kind of explore things and do things, and nothing was really set. You didn't know quite how the world works. You kind of played around and figured out, oh, okay, this is how this happens. This is what happens when I do this, and this other thing happens. But you were discovering it all the time you were playing. It wasn't all set out for. It's like, okay, I do this, and I know what's going to happen. It's more like I do this, and anything can happen. There was that wonder, that excitement, that joy, that fun. It's deep down inside every audience member you have. Every audience member you have out there was a kid sometimes. That's right, your boss was once a child. Difficult to remember, difficult to believe, I know. But at some time your boss probably was some form of child. And so that's the case in your audience at some time were children. I can almost absolutely, wait a minute. Yes, I can absolutely say your audience at some time was children. They have that deep-seated desire to have fun and to play. So bring play in. Now when you play things, of course, you don't want to have them going off and saying, oh, we're having a good time here, this is a lot of fun, and Play-Doh and Tinker Toys, and throwing things up in the air. Hey, catch me, catch me, catch me. You don't want that happening. That's crazy. But when you get into play is something that gets it related of thinking about your subject, about your topic, exploring in a new way. Maybe building blocks that somehow relate to your subject, or toys that somehow relate to your subject, or doing something that takes what you're talking about, the dry facts you're talking about, and makes them fun and interactive and exciting. This sort of playing really got to get the audience involved in it. So it's some sort of breakout session, some sort of situation where people are interacting with each other and saying, hey, take this toy and use it in a different way, or pretend that this doll is whatever and use it in different ways. It's all about playing. And yeah, toys can be a great way to do it. Just have some toys and make sure they relate to your point very carefully. And here's the thing about it. If you're going to have play, you have to very carefully structure what you're going to say. But here are the rules. Here's what's going on. Here's why we're using this toy. You're going to get a little pushback, especially from the higher placed people. Like, whoa, I don't know about this toy thing. It's kind of crazy. But if you can use that, and even get those higher placed people to kind of explore, have fun, have a good time, oh boy, they will buy in. There's one more thing you can do, but this is particularly challenging. Teaching is nice. Careful it's not top down. The audience is teaching each other. That's fine. And then a story is wonderful. If you can get them to play, even better. There's one more thing that you really can do to... Oops. Teaching is nice. Stories even better. And if you get them to play, that's wonderful. Get in touch with their inner child. There's one more thing you can do to involve the audience, and it is particularly challenging. But there are huge rewards. If you can get this actually going with your audience, you could start right there in your speech future projects that the company would take and be using for months and months and months. You would take your speech and make it from just a momentary thing to even evolving into a goal or a work plan, because there's so much there to do with your speech. Now, that would require a lot of audience interaction and setup, and maybe not as much from you, but you really would have to structure it carefully. But huge rewards. And that is if you can get your audience to design something. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Tim, your audience to design something? That's crazy. I mean, it's going to take a lot of work. You got to plan things out. You got to figure things. All the audience has got to kind of agree to do. You got to get buy-in. I mean, not that fun. It's true. A lot of work. You're going to have to really carefully lay out what you're designing, why you're designing, because you're going to get pushed back like crazy. It's like, hey, we don't design stuff here. We're here to kick back and have some coffee and enjoy some laughs with you, and that's what we're here to do. This is between our meetings. You know, it's a non-meeting thing. We don't design stuff. You know, when it's some entertainment, you know, laughing, clowns, that sort of thing. So it's natural. Speaker, you deal with that sort of thing. But if you can get them to design something, wow. All of a sudden, if you get them really seriously, and here's they're going to design a new product. Here's they're going to work on designing a new approach. You're going to work on designing another. Now that you understand through play or story or teaching and what the challenges and issues are, let's design some sort of solution. Let's right now, right here, come up with some sort of solution to deal with that problem you've already personally touched, felt, smelt, been involved with. Let's come up with something for that. I said that'll take buy-in. Everybody will have to think, okay, all right, it's crazy, but all right, we're going to do something, let's get something done. And so you're going to take all the kind of persuasive powers you have to get people really on board and saying, all right, let's do this, let's all pull together. So you really got to get people moving on it. But designing, get people to design something. That is powerful. Because design is simply something they can use over and over and over again. Once you design something, once you get a design for something, that means it's like a template. You say, okay, we just use this thing again here, and we can use it in this situation, and that situation, and that situation, and it turns from just a talk into a real useful item. You get people, and then they started to get ideas going. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, I understand. Well, we got this problem over here. Yeah, well, we can design around this. Yeah, but if we do that, then, okay, well, we can try this. And you may get, the nice thing about it is, usually at these meetings, you'll get people at different levels in different areas who never talk to each other. They're talking to each other now. There they are. Maybe for the first time ever, they're starting to talk with each other. And as they started talking to them and understand some limitations with issues, and they said, well, we can design this. Oh, that's not going to work for me because this. Oh, okay, well, how about this? Oh, that could do, or I can bring this in, or how about if we did this instead? Design. Incredibly powerful. Just amazingly powerful. A lot of work. But you get them to design something, and they use it, they will be asking you back. You really want to get your audience interested in what you're talking about, really involved in it. You want to involve the audience. Simply standing up there and saying, I talk, you shut up and listen, doesn't work. There are many different approaches you have for involving the audience, and today you learned about 4 of them. First one you learn about is the importance of teaching. Now again, that isn't a top-down you teaching the audience. That teacher-student thing just doesn't fly past college. Instead, what it's more about is getting the audience to teach somebody else or teach each other some of the issues. Especially if you've got people who don't usually interact, you can teach about some of the challenges. So, okay, well, you say this thing doesn't work. What's the problem here? Well, then you can educate. Well, the problem is here because this, and this doesn't fit in that way. You think it does, but it doesn't. This is actually the way it fits in. And it goes down here. Oh, okay, well, how if we did this and that? Would that work? Yeah, okay. Teach. You can teach somebody, and then both sides can learn something. You can teach me about that, and I can teach you about this, and then both sides start getting talking and interactive, and things really start to take off from there once you get the audience to teach each other. Now, it's important that each of it teaches each other. One is just always teaching, the other one's always listening, then we feel that one down position, but then reverse it. Okay, you taught me, now I want to teach you. Get them to teach back and forth. That'll build a lot of interaction. And aside from teaching, get stories out. Stories are deep, they're meaningful. Examples tell, stories sell. So even when you start getting teaching, maybe just after the teaching, get some sort of story. What is the story of your audience? Get them to kind of come together and share the story, why they're here, what their challenges are, what their frustrations are, what they've dealt with before, what they've thought about, how they approach things. All of those things be part of their story. And the more people understand their story in the audience, the more you as a speaker understand their story, the better off you are. Because then you know, oh, okay, well, this is what's going on. I know the approach I should take. And the audience the same way thinks, oh, wow, I never knew about that about you. Oh, that explains a lot of things. Okay, we can go from there. And get them to kind of unearth some of their personal stories and maybe get them to participate in the story. If you've got a story of a customer, figure out where they can fit into that story of the customer. Here's where you go through and the customer does this and this, because then it comes to you and you do X, Y, and Z. So they can be part of a story, part of a bigger, grander story. And stories are deep. Another thing that's very deep also is play. Play. Because everyone in your audience has a childhood. As difficult as to believe for some people, yes, they were children at some time. Which meant at some time they had to have some experience of play, of discovery. Play is all about discovery. You don't know quite what the rules are, you don't know quite where things are going, but you kind of play along and you see where things are going. It can be a lot of fun. Now, you want to be careful in play. It can be turning absolute chaos. People running around the room and chasing each other, and people dipping girls' pigtails in the inkwell. I don't think you can do that. I think that's actually against the law now. But they did that way back then. So you don't want to go too far in play. You want to make sure you structure it. The play has to be around your point. I got a point. We're going to play around, have some fun. That's great. Play automatically gets people in touch with that inner child, gets people having fun, gets people really involved. It's a very deep way to involve and connect with the audience, and have the audience connect with themselves. Play, have some fun. Make it clear why they're having fun, to make it pushback. Hey, I put that play stuff way behind me a long time ago. Instead, you want to say, okay, well, here's the reason we're going to do a little play, and here's why, here's what you're going to get out of it, here's the benefits, this is how it works. And then once you got play, things are great. Something you can do a lot deeper, a lot more powerful, very useful. And that is design. You can get your audience to actually design something. Design a future service. Design a future solution. Design something that company can use and really get to. So they're going to be using it afterwards. So after your breakout session, whatever is over, that won't be it for the design. People will take that design back to their work with them and really use it. And you got all these people together. They're all interacting. They're all playing and sharing and having a good time. What a great opportunity to really have them get something done. Get some real work done. Not just a lot of talky talk, but get some real work done. That's going to take careful structuring. Here's why you're doing it. Here's what you're doing. Here's kind of the sort of thing that you're designing and why you're designing it. But you get them to buy it, and you get the right design. That's powerful. Because the words you have to say, the things you're going about, things you're talking about, the concepts you're going through that they design in will suddenly become part of the company's culture, part of the company's ethics, part of the way the company does business, or part of their personal life, part of how they handle life, part of the way they think about life. Because they design in all the things you've been talking about in your speech. So top-down doesn't work. You need to involve the audience. 4 different ways you found out about today. There are other different ways, but just start with these 4 different ways. Just make a small commitment to just pick one of these 4 things and start doing it. Because what really matters in your speech is not about the applause you get or not about what sort of things they do during your speech. What really matters, if they take your speech, they use your ideas, they take them back in real life, and you help them improve their life.